Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Online वालों? How many questions today? इसका तो कोई डेफिनेट आंसर होता होगा? No answer. Okay, 4, all 4? 3? Less than 3? Anyone with less than 3? Why this कोलावेरी? Less than 3 is very less. क्या हुआ? सेकेंड क्वेश्चन में बड़ा लगने का मतलब, चलो एक की स्टडी कम कर ली ना, 2 क्वेश्चन का मतलब समझ रहे हो आप? 80 मार्क्स, 40 मार्क्स, ऐसे कैसे काम चलेगा? फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम ऑल 4, बिकॉज द केस स्टडीज आर थ्योरेटिकल इन नेचर. 2 ऑफ द केस स्टडीज आर थ्योरेटिकल इन द नेचर. Okay, so today's I think one question is on environmental regulations, that is enforcement of the environmental regulations. Another question is with respect to internal security, and another question is the rest 2 questions are with respect to theoretical aspect of the corruption. Okay, so that is how we learning the ways to fight corruption also. Okay, something that we left in the theory section. I told you that we will cover during case studies only. So I think, can I have your paper? Okay, so I think ये 5 है, 5 का टेस्ट 5 चाहिए होगा ना. I am taking 2.5 to 3 minutes to read case study itself. Left with 2.5 to 3 minutes is I think bit more. Yes, 3 minutes is bit more with respect to reading of the case studies. You need to improve your timings. Okay. So let us start with the first question. It is the narcotic menace that is there. Okay. I think I gave you some clue that how to tackle this question. So this question is asking regarding what are the various dimensions of the crisis. That is the first part. And the second part is the measures to deal with the crisis. Okay, so this is actually a very lengthy case study. Okay, if you look at it, this case study is quite lengthy because we need to address so many dimensions in this case study. So when we are talking about dimensions, there also lot many points are there, and then when we are thinking about the measures, then lot many things are there to address. So what can be the introduction? All of you were worried about introduction. What can be the introduction in this case? Stakeholders. Stakeholder is a good introduction because there are actually too many stakeholders in this case study. Yes. Then anyone who invoked DPSP? That is nice. That is nice. So DPSP is very, very important. All of you have gone through DPSP? Okay, so you must use it, at least one of the case study that is there. So either we can start with Article 47 of the case study that talks about drugs and everything, or also we can start with any international convention that you might remember as part of your prelims preparation. Understood? So from there we can start in this question. Or the stakeholder would also be a great introduction. I've seen many aspirants who are writing stakeholder, then they will write so many things also, making the introduction half page. Half page of the introduction is not required because that is a very lengthy introduction. And when you write half a page of introduction, you will miss out on one case study and then it will cost you lot more. Okay, you will not get that many marks in introduction, but you will lose lot many marks when it comes to case study if you don't answer one question. You have come after so long. आपके पीछे, हाँ, कहाँ पे थे आप? हाँ, वीकेंड पे तो आप घर थे, ठीक है, मान लिया. उसके पहले कहाँ थे? हाँ, टेस्ट नहीं दिए. वाई? क्यों पेंडिंग थी, वही तो जानना चाह रहे हैं. इतने भी नए नहीं थे आप, आपने पूरी थ्योरी क्लास अटेंड करी थी. आई सॉ यू आर वेरी रेगुलर इन दोज क्लासेस. क्या हो गया दिवाली पे? लड़की वाले आ गए तो ये सब बहाने क्या बात कर रहे हो आप? दिवाली की प्रोसेस में है आप. दिवाली कब थी केतन? कब थी दिवाली? हैं? 30? 1 नवंबर, आज क्या है? 2 भाई 1 महीना हो गया दिवाली गए, क्या बात कर रहे हो? ये तो गड़बड़ है जी। मैं तो आपको लगातार सिंसियर स्टूडेंट हूँ, लगातार क्लास अटेंड किया अपनी थ्योरीज की। That is not good. You must attend the classes regularly and the tests are pending, then not good actually. Okay. So, what are the various dimensions of the crisis? बताइए बताइए. What are the different aspects? बताइए बताइए कृति. Absence of welfare state. Very good. Very good. Who else? Very good, Supriya. Brilliant. Huh? International liability dimension. Threat to economy is a good question. Instability in the border nation. Okay. Any other dimension that we are missing out? Brilliant. You always, Abhinandan, now I remember your name. Okay, you always amazes me. Brilliant. Family dimension is very, very important here. How could you miss it? Family dimension, yes, breakdown of the society is one of the most important dimension that is there. Brilliant, Abhinandan. You will make yourself proud next year. I mean, I'm not sure about your other subjects, but you will definitely be there. Yes, that is a societal dimension that has to be part of the case study. That has to be part of that. Okay. Okay, so what are the dimensions? So if we just look at it from broader perspective, some of the dimensions are with respect to narcotics. The problem is that only, then international dimension, then security dimensions, then system is collapsing because it is written, somewhere it is written, the near stalling of the education, that is a huge statement. The near stalling of the education, the breakdown of the system has been written. Systems are on the verge of collapse. Okay, so that's a huge statement. So dimension from that perspective, and then there may be alleged support of the politician officer. So it is a very, very important dimensions, and most important dimension amongst all the dimension. If I were to rate one of the most important dimension is this. How many of you missed on this societal dimension? बताइए क्यों कीर्ति जी हाथों खड़ा करो मिस कर दिया कितना अंदर लिख दिया अच्छा पढ़ेंगे तो ऐसे फील आएगा बट ऐसे दिखेगा नहीं ये कौन सा पॉइंट है जो दिखेगा नहीं बट फील आएगा वी नीड टू वर्क ऑन इट पता है ना ये तो आपको वही वाला आंसर हो गया आपका जो भाई साहब दे रहे थे कोई एक मुझे सर मुझे लिखा है सर यहाँ देखो सर यहाँ पे पीछे आके दिखाया उन्होंने कंक्लूजन में 1-2 लाइन मुझे सो इफ इट इज नॉट दैट विजिबल देन अब वो आपके मन में ही ज्यादा है rather than it will not be communicated to the examiner in that fashion. Any other person who has missed this dimension? Yes, why? Could not think. You should think. Anything that is all pervasive. I have discussed so many times. I think one of the question in EPCB, environmental pollution, there also you must address what? Society. That is what you need to learn. Whenever we are tackling something that is all pervasive in the society, you must address. I think my voice is echoing. No? So you must address the societal dimension, because without social support, such problems will not, be that pervasive. Understood? So that is what we need to write. And then international dimension is something, national security, because money laundering may be there, arms trafficking may be there. The black money that you are generating may be funded because of that. The system is collapsing. So rule of law is not applicable. If you remember the text, then you write the NDPS Act. Otherwise, the rule of law is not the work culture, because the system is on the verge of collapse. That highlights the work culture. Faith and credibility of the administration is not there. That is very significant dimension. Loss of trust and everything. Social contract also you can write. Then demographic dividend. Another very important problem. Because education is near stalled. That's a huge statement. So it will have huge consequences on the children, and that will make them more susceptible to drug abuse. That is also equally important. That will make them more susceptible to drug abuse. And then alleged support of the police officers and politicians will actually, because they are supposed to be statesmen. Statesmen is a very important keyword that you can always use. Why civil servant or politicians, they have to be, why they have to be ethical. So one of the aspect is that the society looks upon them. Society looks up to them that this is what perhaps you would like to become. So role modeling is very, very important, Then potential hindrances might be there in the investigation because of the alleged nexus. And most importantly, it is about breakdown of the social capital, breakdown of the family system, breakdown of social institutions like family, media, education institutions to instill right set of values, because it is not just about supply, it is equally about demand side of the problem. Just like in the paper leak, just like in drugs, just like in everything, it is equally important that you must address the demand side. So that is the failure of institution is very, very important. And ultimately the values, consumerism, lack of empathy, and lack of civic duty sense. So these are very, very important dimensions. Very good, Navneet. These are very, very important dimensions. Pragya, I think, she is not well. That is what she messaged. Okay, so so how many of you wrote 60 to 70% of it, more or less? Okay, so very nice. Less than 40%, anyone? Less than 40%? If you are writing 60 to 70% of this answer, then you will be getting good marks. Okay, I mean, you will get good marks. Okay, so that's very, very good to hear that you are now able to implement and write multiple dimensions in your case studies. So, but this dimension is equally important. So we have discussed that. Now I will just re-emphasize that part. Social evil, anything that is pervasive like environmental pollution, drug abuse, any crime against women, attitude problem that is there, law and order situation, even if that is there, wildlife crime that is happening, illegal deforestation if that is happening. Basically, everything will always have societal dimensions, because administration alone won't be able to tackle it. That is very, very important. Understood? Okay, so now with respect to the measures, so what are the different aspects that you must address? Just talk about the headings. Talk about the headings. Dr. Saab, आप बताइए.
Tackling both the demand side and supply side.
Yes.
Like drug awareness campaign.
You tell. Last time I also asked you about subheadings, and you were so mesmerized about your answers that you were talking about micro points. Yes. Talk about today. Principles you have mentioned. Mostly about measures actually. Today's question is mostly about measures, not principles. Okay, still I will see. Any other? Ketan, आपका क्या headings है? Short term and long term measures. अब बताओ चलो short term के अंदर headings बताओ. Sources, finance aspect, punishment, educative. Done. Okay, so the bigger aspects of the problems are, see, one way we need to address drugs, that is demand side of it. Okay, so how the drug is supplied, so we need to check the source also, entire supply chain, we'll discuss that. After that, we need to address the supply side, supply side we address, demand side. After that, we will address the demand side. That is what we'll talk about, the schools and colleges, roping into the schools and colleges, education reforms that must be part of the everything, and awareness generation, everything. It will also include rehabilitation. Okay, also include rehabilitation. After that, another important aspect is administration. Okay, because they must also be held accountable. That is equally important, and that it is said that the senior police officers and the local politicians might be providing patronage. So how would you tackle that? What have you written to address that? Whatever you have written to address that. हाँ, so वही पूछ रहा हूँ, क्या लिखा है आपने? How did you address it? So here one important aspect is that, see, whenever any unconfirmed reports are there or anything that is not, substantial, then you must, the only weapon that is there in your hand is investigation. I mean, it is not that you go to the house of a politician and then you say, come to the police station. It will not work like this. So here you will always talk about that how you will make the investigation foolproof, so that you should gather evidences, you should build a charge sheet, the case should be foolproof. That is what, and also you must protect yourself because so many people are involved. It may be a case of nexus between all the powerful people, and that demands that you cannot leave any room for error in terms of investigation, and also with respect to your own personal conduct. That is equally important in such high profile cases, because if you go here and there, you will be punished like everything. You talk about this IRS officer, in the Shah Rukh Khan case. Now he was being all James Bond when that case was happening, and after that then things actually followed him, and then suspended and everything happened. So that is what is there. Any high profile case you are managing, you need to carry yourself with utmost integrity, because there are so many eyeballs on you. You think you are smart, there are people who are smarter than you, and their only job is to find chinks in your armor. Okay, so that is what. So here, that is utmost important, that you will take, every care to ensure that. So let us now look at the solution aspect, that what we should do. So supply side, so let us think from where the drugs are coming. The sources are with poppy farming, that might be there. So you must investigate that. You may take the help of central government to ensure that the satellite survey is there, or any drones or everything, so that you know from where you are getting the raw material. Okay, so this is what, like you are appointing a nodal officer and he will be doing all the survey. People will be mandatorily disclosing that what they are actually cultivating on their farmland, and you can have a one-time alternative measures. You can provide one-time financial assistance to the people who have been cultivating it for generation to generation. That is another important aspect of these drugs, especially in some of the Rajasthans and some pockets where you are actually cultivating poppy, you are having poppy farming only from generation to generation. So they don't know anything other than to cultivate poppy. So that is why at times, if you want to reduce the output, then at times you may need to provide one-time financial assessment and alternative employment also, because you need to compensate for that. What else they will do, because that is what they know, that is what have been transmitted from generation to generation. That is very, very important. So that is what you can do. Poppy farming you must tackle. Then illicit manufacturing of drugs in the labs, because ultimately that is where it will be manufactured, and there you can talk about all the raw material that might be required, because all these chemicals that you require to make drugs, they are diverted from their usual last mile use that is there. So usually in the pharmaceutical ingredients that are there, they are diverted towards drugs. So pharmaceutical, you will monitor the types of the pharmaceuticals that might be diverted, trafficked, and that is what you will track them. And it is all equally important, since there is a border state, that you will do the risk analysis and profiling of import and export consignment, because you may be having the smuggling of these inputs and outputs through the porous border. So the risk profiling and the monitoring of the export and import is equally important. After that, a supply chain, how once a drug is manufactured, how it is actually reaching to the last beneficiary. So there you will talk about street peddlers. It is equally important, because that is what is operating at field level, street peddlers, because usually they are the people who are themselves drug addict. Okay, they themselves are drug addict, but they are not able to make their ends meet. So what they will do, they will start the peddling of the drugs. They will become the last mile distributors in this entire supply chain, and that is how they will earn their own doge also. So one important aspect, and that is equally important from the perspective of law and order, is that what is your attitude towards the drug peddlers? Are you viewing them as someone who is only breaking the law, or are you viewing them as someone who are addicted to drugs? And if you are viewing them as such, then it requires a more empathetic approach, because even if you arrest them and put them into jail, then they will crave drugs and there might be mental breakdown. So it requires a very emotional aspect to it. So that is a very important dimension, that the last mile street peddlers that are there, at times they are themselves drug addicts, mostly they are drug addicts themselves, so that is equally important, that you have this attitude change administration, so you must sensitize and build the capacity of the personnel who are posted there in the police station. Also with respect to the border dimension that is there, that is the security force and everything, and cross border cooperation and exchange of info is equally important. So that is important. Peddling squads of the police, that is what you will develop when it comes to street peddlers. Okay, so all of it you only need to write one line. Okay, I have discussed that in that great detail, because so that you understand that whenever you are tackling, maybe next time it will be sand mafia. We discussed that also, I think, to some extent. So it can be anything. It is just that you draw these headings, that you are tackling poppy farming, manufacturing, police administration, and last mile beneficiary. The perspective is more important than these points. These points are just to make you aware that how one should go about it. Okay, how many of you quoted community policing in your answer? Very good. Community policing, very, very important. Okay. And after that, you talk about schools and colleges that you may recommend, recommend because you are an SP only, I think. Okay, so you may recommend that there should be mandatory and comprehensive chapter on drug abuse and the illicit trafficking and how they are costing yourself individually and also society. What are the socio-economic costs that are there? So it should be part of the curriculum. It should be very much part of the curriculum, and you can constitute anti-drug club to promote a drug life. In schools and colleges, you can institute these clubs. So this is here, it is anti-drug club. Suppose you want to ensure afforestation in your area, it can be, let's say, green club. Suppose you want to, ensure more participation in terms of voting, to increase the voting percentage in your area, it can be electoral club. So all I'm saying is all these institutions in schools and colleges you can build. As per the demand of the question. So they will act as institutions so that you are roping in the young generation, that is schools and college going children. Okay, so that is equally important. After that, ultimately reducing the demand. So there it is important that you treat the drug addicts. Treatment and rehabilitation of the drug addict is very, very important. So you can have the NGOs partner with you because they are more capable at times. They have more empathetic approach also. So you can partner with NGOs for this. You can have sports and other recreational facilities for the youth to divert, because they are habituated with respect to drug abuse only. So how you can divert their attention? The sports and youth, the recreational facilities are very, very important part of these efforts. So that is what also you can do. You can also, conduct various sports and game competition in your area to promote awareness and everything. And this part you can use generally also. Sports and games competition, everything. I will make you write all those points in the coming test with respect to attitude change. Comprehensive code of conduct I will give you, and you can use that later on. And also, you can also identify the vulnerable section. Some people are more vulnerable, the sex workers and transportation workers, they are more vulnerable to drug abuse. So you can also tackle vulnerable sections. It is equally important. Disaster management also we tackled vulnerable section. Okay, so always have that point whenever you are tackling any governance problem, that is vulnerable sections of the society, and your attitude should be of community policing. So here, when we are addressing it, what is important is the schools and colleges should be addressed, demand should be reduced, and people should be made as partners through community support policing, and there should be a rehabilitation of the drug addict. How many of you missed the rehabilitation aspect? Why this Kulaveri? Emotion intelligence requires that you must have a human side to it, because if you only look at it from the law and order perspective, you will never understand the human side to it. So rehabilitation is equally important. This sports and recreational facilities, they are very, very important. I'll give you the example in the in my own villages and everything that I go and see. Earlier, there were a lot of traditions in terms of playing sport, cricket, lot many games we used to play. Not just we, the generation that is before us. So there was a lot of emphasis on that. Lot of playgrounds were there in our villages. Lot many competitions, they were used to be held and everything. But now what I'm seeing is that is gradual decline of that. The playgrounds, they have been encroached by the people to build their buildings and everything. And the people, they are losing interest in terms of sports. And what is happening that now, the younger generation is resorting to drugs, alcohol at very, very young age, and they are always into mobile phone. That is what I am also observing. I think similar observation must be there, towards your side, that the children who are going to schools, 10th, 12th, 11th, they are having alcohol and they are addicted to that, and they are always into the mobile phone. So because it is always easy to get spoiled, society will support you in that. They will always find that, and that is a very bad situation to be in. Okay, so that is what is happening. So that is why sports and recreational facilities are very, very important, because youth has a lot of energy and it must be channelized. Okay, so you must use that whenever you are writing the answer, and when you become the officers, tackle that. Okay, so that is equally important. Also, with respect to the roadblocks, because here what is important, that the senior officers and everyone, they might be against you. So that is why it is important. Objectivity and transparency must be there when you are dealing with such cases, and you must build a foolproof case. Otherwise, things may be difficult for you, and you should maintain highest standards of integrity and risk management yourself, because there may be cases against you only. Okay, false cases and everything. So that is equally important. Intimidations can take a lot many other forms, and that is why you must conduct yourself with utmost integrity, and also the case that you are building should be foolproof. Long-term measures, this can be part of conclusion in terms of modernization of police and judiciary, value education, improvement of security infrastructure, and surveillance capability. That is basically early warning signal and everything that you can develop. So through this question, what we can learn is that how to actually break down a problem in multiple dimensions. And when we are providing solution, at first we must have a broader perspective. This is what we will be addressing. Okay, that is very, very important. We must have a broader perspective whenever we are answering such question. Okay, so how many of you wrote along these lines only? 60 to 70% again, at least. Good. Ishika, what happened? That is fine. Likha to hai. Okay, nice. Okay, so now you would like to perhaps note it.
Substantial roadblocks can be put separate.
The risk management, anticipating the further risk and something like that. That can be the heading. Separate subheadings can. You should talk more through your headings and subheadings in these questions, because examiner, just by looking at your headings, he or she should be able to see the broadness in your answer. That is what you have addressed. That is brilliant. Are you the same Pragati who is to come offline? Yes, hate the sin, not the sinner. That can be a very good conclusion. Very good. There is no conflict of interest, senior advice, but there is no conflict like that as such. Yes, you can take help of that. Should I? Okay. You tell me if there's any relevance, we'll add that, because I did not see any. For me, I mean, it did not matter. But if you have any perspective, I would like to hear. Then it is not there. Any perspective from women police officer angle? Shreya? No? Attitude change among locals to Nukkad Natak and everything, that is a very good dimension. Yes, we can definitely add that. I will give you a comprehensive, this is the first slide. No, this is the first slide, sorry. Done? This part is also done. This part is also done. These words like risk analysis, profiling, they are important keywords. You can use them. I mean, you can use them in multiple answer. No? Done? Yeah? R smuggling is not the core demand of the question. It is the consequence of it in this case. So the core demand is narcotics, the first line of the question. Narcotic menace has become, that is the only dimension. क्या नहीं कर सकते? बॉम्बिंग किसको किसको? आर्म्स कर लीजिए, बट आई डोंट थिंक दैट आई मीन दिस इज नॉट द मेजर डिमांड ऑफ द क्वेश्चन. मेजर डिमांड इज नार्कोटिक्स. You can address it if you want. That is a consequence, because arms trafficking can happen because of so many regions. Narcotics is only one region. Done? So let's talk about this. The next case study, that is okay, EPCV is there and you need to ensure compliance. So what is the problem that is there? What is the problem that is there? Development, environment, comes without morality, okay. Livelihood, okay. Okay, I think let us just discuss the measures that you will take. Okay, or you want to discuss something else? Measures. So what can be the measures that we can adopt here? The type of mechanism you would suggest to ensure environmental compliance. Let us talk about that. See, this question has lot many questions within this. So you should not generate too many options, because it will be quite hectic for you. Yes. So बताइए, what are the problem with respect to compliance and how would you address it? Codification, clarification, okay, that can be one aspect. Then after that, attitude change of, okay, attitude is another aspect. Then
Consumers are also involved, so again demands like demand side if you address that.
consumers
Consumers are also supporting the setting up of industries.
क्या लिखा हुआ है?
Basically, they would have to suffer on laborers and the consumers alike.
The consumers
Laborers and consumers. Second last.
अच्छा, वो तो सफरिंग के पर्सपेक्टिव से है, ठीक है. तो आप क्या बोल रहे हो?
Saying including the consumers so that they don't buy the drugs from
अच्छा, phased manner, okay. Categorization, okay.
Establishing fast track tribunals, it's taking more delay. Benji taking some other order, they are appealing in High Court and it is creating more.
I don't think that you can do tribunals and everything you can create like that. Creation of constitutional body for another regulation. You are only an officer heading the section in EPCB. You cannot create constitutional body just like that. Third party audit mechanism. Okay. So what should be your attitude when you are dealing with this? Let us focus on that. Okay, the industry people, they are sitting with you. So what should be your attitude? Suppose you are speaking to them. How would you speak to them? Providing? Absolutely brilliant. I'm proud of you. Absolutely brilliant. So that should be the attitude. I mean, firstly, you should help them comply. I mean, you should not start with danda. That will punish you for that. Okay? Your first step should be, you should facilitate the compliance in whichever manner it is possible. That is the hallmark of a great administrator, because it does not view everyone as enemy, that everyone is chore. Because if you have that perspective, then you will find it very, very difficult to actually implement things. So your first perspective should be that what are the challenges that you are facing, and then what can be done to help you in meeting that demand. Okay, so that is very, very, very good, Kriti. Okay, after that, did you write that? Okay, good. So that should be the first step. So you are helping them, and then now that carrot is there must be stick also. Okay, so if they are not then complying with the regulations, everything, you will take actions. Okay, it is equally important that you take action. You should not be a very soft officer in a way that you do not have any teeth to show. Okay, the law will take their own course. That is what you will communicate in no uncertain terms. Okay, and you will help them. At the same time, you will make them fear rule of law. Okay, what is the other aspect? Monitoring mechanism, brilliant, because here even after the certificates have been issued, the compliance is not there. Okay, so it is also about that, the compliance, whether they are continuously complying with that or not. So you should strengthen the monitoring and accountability aspect. That is equally important. Very good. After that, what else we need to tackle here? Locals, because they are suffering. Yes, the people who are suffering, that is also equally important. The people who are suffering. Okay, so you should take them on board and they should help you. Okay, they should help you. And also, if anyhow you can link their environmental compliance with some economic incentive, that should also help. Okay, because that will make them easier for them to comply. Suppose a sort of accreditation, rating or certificate, something like that. Yes, anything, carbon trading, anything, because that will help them. That is how in corporate governance, I was telling you again and again, you need to mix both the aspects. I mean, you cannot just give them danda in a way that you need to follow law. Even if you are incurring huge losses, you must be sympathetic to their loss and you should help them in meeting that bridge. That is also equally important. So that should be the broader heading of your suggestions here. Okay, so you should provide education and technical assistance for them. For example, it may include processing centers for the pollutant. Okay, that, I mean, you may develop certain common centers, to recycle things, because having them individually may not be that cost effective for each of these industrial units. So you may have a collection depot for such material, and then you may recycle it at a collective point. So that is how you can help them, by coordinating with various industries, or perhaps in the entire cluster, that perhaps you can achieve economy of scale because of that, and it will help you in compliance also. So that is very much important. You may create some financial arrangement, in terms of providing some economic incentives. For example, loans, pollution tax, subsidy, anything that you can explore to help them. And also in terms of accreditation of their product to ensure more credibility and brand value, that how fair they are doing. And you see this, all these airports, they boast themselves, that we are carbon neutral, something like that. So it is always, I mean, you can always, talk about it. That is also very much important, that you help them, and you can publicize the success stories that are there, that this thing can be done, has been done, and that is what you can also do. And at the same time, you must build the public support. Enforcement program, they should continue to, receive necessary funding and everything. You should take help of NGOs, because they are willing to help you. Citizen suit also you can explore and you can explain them the cause and effect of the pollution, and how it is, it will be harming you only, the locals, and also the company also. The company will also not be sustainable in the long run. They may run the industry for some time, but after some time, it will not be sustainable. You can give the example of Delhi also, that how big the financial losses are, because for quite some time you are not able to sustain your operations. It is equally important. Okay, so that is what. And then you must build the environmental management capacity, audit system and everything. You must invest in that. Role-playing method, sensitive training, whatever you want to write, you write that. The enforcement capability you need to build, because ultimately you need to see the compliance. It is one thing to give the certificate. After that, compliance has to be necessary. For that, you must establish clear guidelines and standards. There should not be any ambiguity in that people are not able to understand. And you must strengthen the monitoring and enforcement system, technologies, surveillance technology, monitoring and everything. So the bigger aspect of the dimensions are, you will help them. You will help them through making rules and regulations very clear to them. You will help them through financially, if any options is there. You will help them into, making themselves brand, themselves some accreditation with respect to certificate that you are a green product and something like that. And after that, you can also help them in terms of probably having a common collection center to manage and everything, so that economy of scale can be achieved. After that, you will ensure the accountability of them by strengthening your own monitoring and accountability mechanism, and you should have local people support. That is equally important. Understood? So in this question, this is what is important, that when you look at a problem, you identify what are the problem that you want to address, and then you address it. Okay, and these should be your headings. So how many of you wrote those headings and then address those problems? So what are the headings? What are the headings, Ketan? Louder. Frequent inspection cannot be the heading. Heading should be strengthening monitoring mechanism. Under that, one of the point will be frequent inspection. Second point will be capacity building. Third point will be something else, technological surveillance, major drone, whatever you want to write. So you must understand the headings are something else. You must club all these points. Okay. Anyone who will tell their headings? आप बताइए. Transparency and accountability is an incomplete heading. Transparency and accountability for what? Because when you write that heading, it will give you secondary level of justification automatically. Because transparency and accountability you can write in any of the case study. It will automatically work, and more or less it will be there. So that is why it is not a very specific heading. You must write properly. Accountability and transparency for environmental compliance, perhaps. Yes. Use of technology to do what? नहीं, हेडिंग क्या चल रही है? मेजर्स में लिख रहे हो आप? ओके, ठीक है. रेगुलेशंस टू इंश्योर अकाउंटेबिलिटी. ठीक है. लीगल कंप्लायंस, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ इंस्पेक्शन, टेक्नोलॉजी, स्टेक होल्डर कंसल्टेंट, एनवायरमेंटल एथिक्स. यस, यस अंकित, गुड अंकित, दैट्स गुड. Anyone? So mostly 60% answer is there. 60-70% answer. Are you satisfied? Yes, no. How many of you are satisfied? Then only you will raise your hand. बताइए. Only 1% is satisfied. क्या हुआ? What is the source of dissatisfaction here? Headings. Okay. 9 marks. Okay. Then other aspects. Headings only. Okay. स्पेस कम दिया. क्वेश्चंस बहुत लेंथी था, 4 क्वेश्चन पूछा हुआ था. ठीक है. C is different question altogether. C is bit broader question. It is a standalone question, if I may just say. So option is like this is what you will do. Whether you will just do the things like that कि या कर लो जिसको जो करना है, I am okay with that, or would you take some partial action, something like that. These are the options that you say.
Like it was on the medium side of the allowing the industries, but the fresh compliance is issued on basis of
accountability and helping them. Okay, facilitation and enforcement of the compliance. This should be the option. Facilitation and enforcement. Why we are killing the case study? एक ना उसमें कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट लाइन लिखा हुआ था. क्या था वो? यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ था कॉमन सेंस. सबसे नीचे ऐसे लिखा था मैंने, कॉमन सेंस. तो ये बताओ, अगर आप फैसिलिटेट कर रहे हैं तो कैसे किल कर रहे हैं केस स्टडी को? आप फैसिलिटेट किस चीज के कर रहे हैं? Towards what you are facilitating them? Towards bribe? To let things continue as they are continuing? No. So you are facilitating for environmental compliance. So if you are facilitating for environmental compliance, then how you are killing the case study? That is the objective. Common sense. Spelling लिखो उसकी वहाँ पे. लिखो. अभी लिखो, आप भूल जाते हो. It will kill you in the case study. लिखो, अरे कॉमन सेंस लिखो भाई, वहां पर कहीं लिखो, कहीं. हाँ, लिखो. अगली बार से रिवीजन करोगे तो याद रहेगा. The government also does that. The income, all these tax things that are there. the Vishwas Se Vivad or whatever schemes are there. What is that? Government is helping people comply. Or I mean in taxation provisions, I think CSR is here, he will tell us that lot many presumptive income sections are there. So you can simply declare on income and whatever business you are having, 50% of that you can declare that it is my expenditure. So as to ensure compliance. So government is also ensuring that. So I mean it is always a good way to look at the regulations, that it is not a police state. You have to facilitate the compliance. So the word facilitation does not only mean in terms of negative sense, that you are facilitating in terms of status quo. Facilitation in terms of compliance, and that is your job actually. Okay, if suppose I make a law that you are not able to understand, suppose I write something here that you are not able to understand, then I mean I'm not doing my duty fully, because how else you will comprehend and then implement that? Understood? So that require the compliance, require comprehension. The compliance require facilitation on the part of government. Okay, so maybe you want to note that. Done? Extended producer responsibility is an additional responsibility from the ethical side. Violating compliances or using fines initially, I mean, you can give them some time, facilitate them, and then of course the rule of law will always take place. You must not shy away from writing that line, that after that law will take their own place. Okay, you must not be shy. There is no first page in this question. Rest of the questions are easy only. I think you can address it. Shall we move to the next question? Yes? So next question is difficult question. Ji? आप रिवर्स बोल रहे हैं, that first we should have legal approach and then we should have facilitation. अच्छा, उसमें ये प्रॉब्लम है जी कि कैसे बोलें आपको, सफाई करिए घर पे कभी हैं? कैसे करते हैं सफाई? सो डस्टिंग वगैरह करते हैं, लोग करते हैं ना, तो सफाई करते हैं तो पहले हम ब्रॉड सफाई करते हैं, ठीक है, देन वी गो टू सम पिक्यूलियर थिंग कि यार अब ये साफ नहीं हुआ, इसको साफ कर लेंगे, इसको साफ कर लेंगे. सो व्हेन वी गो टुवर्ड्स फैसिलिटेशन फर्स्ट, you will have lesser cases to deal with later in terms of punishment, because it will create more and more burden on you. So if you have that approach earlier, then you will have lot many cases to deal with, and it might just be possible after that you also understand their problem, they want to comply, but because of something they are not even in a position to comply at this point of time, and then there are just cases pending on your desk, and ultimately you will be like, okay, I will help you. So why don't you help them first and then enforce the law? Because then you will have, I mean, lesser things to clean. Understood? But I can adopt this approach with respect to you from now onwards. Okay? No, this question, Shubham, is not about that what you will do when you are met with hostile response by the industrialist or something like that. I think it is just saying that what you will do. The question is that, only the right that, what you will do. Don't imagine that people will come to your house, knocking at your door, where is Shubham? You want to meet him, don't imagine that. Okay, so let us move to the next question. This is a difficult question, okay, not an easy question, I would say. This is a difficult question. In recent times, there has been an increasing concerns in India, okay, to develop all these things. So, what is the question? You have to suggest institutional measures to address anticipation of the specific threats, strengthening of the competence, and developing the processes and practices which promote the values and integrity. So it is, the question I think is not that much about content, it is more about the categorization of the response across these three questions, and that is where the challenge lies, that what is it. So how would you differentiate between A and C. I think B part is simpler, so we'll address that later. It is mostly the confusion between A and C. So just give me some suggestion that how you are differentiating A and C. Anyone? What is A? Can you just elaborate on it?
It is basically a risk assessment of threat perception with respect to challenges which can arise in course of doing public.
Elaborate more. Yes, you are on the right track. Absolutely right.
For instance,
That is one part.
Can be different threats to the ethical standard from the
So what are the measures that you suggested?
sir, I just made a table of problems and solutions.
Solutions बता दीजिए.
Adherence to 6R guidelines,
Brilliant.
having an impartial watchdog, whistleblower protection,
Good.
grievance redressal mechanism,
Good.
internal complaint mechanism for workforce.
अब थोड़ा सा भटक गए आप. आपने क्या लिखा है? The first part was good. When you started your answer, I think the first time I got the right answer for this case study. क्या लिखा है वही तो बताओ.
policy of the firm, then RTI and citizen charter, then work culture to be
RTI and citizen charters, they are the measures for C or A. You read question again. RTI, citizen charters, are they measures for C or A?
Developing administrative processes and practices.
So this is C. I am asking A. Question A. Because that is the real challenge in this question, to differentiate your answer for A and C. In your opinion, what is the difference, Abhinandan? Vishesh, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yes, बताइए.
Sir, but in the first part, the assessment is done before.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Shabash. So, okay, I think we have some good students. मैं तो सोचा था hopeless batch चाहिए, but it's not the case. So good. Okay, very nice. So this question is mostly about before you are doing something, that what you will do to anticipate such threats that are there, and this is actually after you do something. Okay, if I were to just say, in the context of whatever we have discussed, it is mostly about management of ethics, and it is actually putting that into practice, ethical management. How you will ensure ethical management, and this is how you will manage ethics. That is things that you will do before. Okay, so that is important. The introduction can be that we are ranked on something like that, corruption perception index, the latest ranking that you can write. Okay, so what we can do to identify the potential risk, we can have the audits. Okay, ethical audits must be done to identify that what is A is about aptitude. No, A is about the question A. A, B, C, 3 questions are there in the third question. So A is about the question A. It's not about attitude here. So basically now you are anticipating the risk. You are auditing everything. For example, a legal audit you have to do, and you need to see that whether there is any loophole that is there that can provide the threat to the integrity, or in a way that can facilitate corruption. That is very, very important. For example, the section was there, not benefit any private interest. So the Corruption Perception Act, Prevention of Corruption Act, it can be interpreted like anything because of this very subjective term that is there. The code of conduct, not becoming of civil servant, the vague term is there. So when vague term is there, then it provide lot of ammunition in the hands of higher authorities to make you pliant with respect to what they want you to do. Suppose they want you to do something, but you are not willing, then they will simply find your part of behavior, and they will say it is against unbecoming of civil servant, violation of code of conduct rule, and then you will have proceedings. So people who don't want to go through proceeding, they will simply comply. So it is because of it. Why it is there? Because of lot of subjectivity that is there. So perhaps you need to anticipate those threats, that law should not be like that it is providing ammunition at the hands of the people who want to misuse it. So that is a legal order to do. And perhaps the institutional audit in terms of judiciary, criminal justice system, the specific agencies for accountability that is there, like CBI, Lokpal, that whether is there any threat with respect to their integrity. Okay, so that is the audit system that is there. And then the risk management within the administration. For that, you need to do the risk profiling of the job. Certain jobs, when you just go through the administration, you will understand certain jobs are more susceptible with respect to corruption, especially that have, dealing with the public, that have crucial aspect, like certificates, or the scholarships or the subsidies. There you will see a lot of corruption that is there. So on the Patwari, the post positions of Patwari, where all the land revenue thing is being done. So basically certain posts are more lucrative from the perspective of corruption. Okay, so that is what you need to do. You need to anticipate those positions, and the second ARC calls them high risk position. Okay, that these positions are high risk position. At the same time, you must have similar analysis for your personnel. So there you can have high risk personnel and you can have low risk personnel. Low risk personnel, basically the people who are having proven track record. Okay, I mean the integrity and everything is very good, the track record is very good. So you must man these positions accordingly. So high risk position should be manned by low risk personnel, and high risk personnel should man low risk positions. Okay, so that is what second ERC suggested, that we should do this risk profiling of the job so that we can anticipate the threats beforehand with respect to personnel and with respect to jobs, and we can then reduce the potential conflict that might arise. Okay, and the proactive risk management that is there, that you do this as soon as a major irregularity is detected, then you do this auditing and everything. You anticipate what is a bigger threat, that you identify the systemic risk that is there, and then you do. And ultimately, you have this management of ethics, some knowledge commission that will provide you, that will guide you, that what are the specific threats that are there that you need to vary of. All the second ARC, all these commissions that are there, what they have done, they have simply anticipated threats with respect to different dimensions: civil services, police administration, local self-government, NGOs, okay, organizational structure, financial administration. So I think 14 reports are there. 13 report is about structure. So basically they have gone through the functioning of the government, and they have anticipated the risks that are there, and they have suggested measures towards that. This is what we should do. For example, the Punchi Commission, it has suggested that the governor position should not be misused, and it has suggested some suggestions so that the position of governor should not be misused like that. The risk, so as to reduce the risk in terms of appointment, removal, and everything. So these knowledge commissions will help you in that, in terms of management of ethics. They will anticipate the threat, they will analyze everything, they will anticipate the threat, and they will provide solution also. So this is what you should do in terms of knowledge commissions, that you can take help of them in terms of understanding. That is the institutional measure that is there in terms of addressing this part. That is anticipating specific threats to the ethical standards and integrity. Understood? Understood or not? Now, in terms of processes, your objective should be to minimize monopoly and discretion and enhance accountability, because ultimately it will lead to corruption. The golden principle is there. The more monopoly and discretion is there, the more lesser accountability is there, the more will be the chances of corruption. So this is what you will do. You will ensure competitiveness, you will reduce the discretion to committee-based decision making and everything, and you will ensure accountability measures like RTI, FITGEN, Charter, social audit, and everything. So that is what you should write in terms of the C part, that is development of administrative processes and practices. So it is like promoting competition, simplifying transaction like single window mechanism, so as to reduce rent seeking activity. You understand rent seeking activities? If you already have simplified everything, then you will have lesser chances, lesser avenues to ask bribe from the people. Promoting transparency like super disclosure, reducing discretion like committee-based decision making, then supervision like performance management. The ACRs, it is very, very important suggestion that you can include. The annual confidential report will they should always look at the aspect that what that officer has done in terms of promoting corruption-free office or to ensure probity mechanism. This should be one of the parameter to evaluate the performance of the officers when you are writing ACR of that officer. Apart from whatever he is doing, you must see that what steps that officer took while he was in the office to ensure lesser degree of corruption, to ensure probity mechanism, so that he has vested, very specific interest, very specific, function to do, that he has to ensure that the checks and balances are there. So basically, that is what, in terms of administrative processes and practices, you have included, supervision, that the supervision should include specific efforts. And then, of course, accessibility to ensure, more citizen-centric with respect to administration, like common service center, monitoring of complaints so that you understand what is the problem that is there, integrity pact you understand. When you are giving tender to everyone, then people are signing that pact that we will not be offering any bribe to the authorities to secure that tender. So you have technology, citizen charter. So that is what you can write in terms of promotion of these administrative processes and practices. Understood? And now can you see the difference between this and this, A and C? Can you see the difference between A and C? Yes? So how many of you were able to differentiate in terms of measures? This is a difficult question, no doubt about it. To differentiate between A and C, it requires a lot of clarity. Very good, Vishesh. Okay, so now this B part is relatively easy, that how to strengthen the ethical competence of the civil servant. How we can do that? Headings क्या हैं आपके आंसर की कृति? Very good. Okay, you can you can divide this answer in terms of entire perspective of civil service. Whenever you want to give any generic reform civil servant, think in terms of recruitment, training, performance appraisal, and that will give you better perspective. That you need more competent people, the people who have more ethical aptitude. So thereby you must have some recruitment reforms. For example, inclusion of this paper in the mains examination. In interview, there may be case study approach. There may be group discussion, something like that, so as to observe more with respect to candidate. So recruitment reform should be there so as to get more people who are having ethical aptitude. Okay, and then performance management, you can talk about 360-degree appraisal and everything. You should manage the relationship with the political executive to ensure ethical competence. That the political executive should act as checks and balances and not as someone who is coercing the bureaucrat or colluding with them for the corruption. Post-retirement benefits should not be, we should have cooling off period, something like that. Training, all these, this is the most important aspect of this part. Whatever Kriti was saying, that sensitivity training, role-playing methods, whatever we discussed with respect to emotional intelligence, that also you can include. And protecting the honest civil servant, that is equally important because it has an impact on the civil servant who are actually honest but doing bona fide mistake. Okay, so you must protect them, and then providing protection to whistleblower, and code of ethics and code of conduct is equally important. So the point is, here we are discussing from the perspective of raising their ethical competence. So it will start with the recruitment, that we should get people with more ethical aptitude, then training, performance appraisal, and we should make it with ethical competence. We should promote that by not harassing them under bona fide mistakes and everything. Understood? So that is what we can write. Most of the answer will go towards training, performance management only. Okay, all other aspects are secondary, but here I have included this perspective so as to give you an overview that how you can diversify your point. Mission Karma Yogi can be part of that, definitely. Mission Karma Yogi can be part of the answer. Understood? I would say a bit difficult question. So now you have very comprehensive suggestions with respect to corruption. Okay, so suppose the question come, how to curb corruption. This is what you should write. Only this is what you will write? No. Okay. After that, society, family, media. No, always have they. Don't forget that. Okay, this I have discussed because corruption is a very huge problem, and you must understand the various dimensions that are there. At times, questions are only one particular dimension. For example, the next case study is on bona fide mistake only. Okay, so that is why you need a holistic perspective. But whenever you are writing a question, have broader perspective in terms of your answer. Okay, all the recommendations that we studied here, they are recommendations of the second ARC only. Okay, so you can quote second ARC. The second ARC has recommended this in its 4th report. Now you can note it. Data test like you are checking their performance in the past, what has been their behavior, like that. Simple test. Ethical competence you are checking. Inclusive work culture, institutional reforms, appraisal, yes, that can be part of this. From work culture angle also you can write that answer. This answer you can also include work culture angle. That is good. Null committee guidelines will be only part of the code of ethics or code of conduct. You can write that here. It is not a very distinct answer. There is a lot of overlap that is there. Whatever you do to anticipate the threats and take action will always go into the processes also. Okay. Mental health. Don't think it is that much required in this case because it is mostly about corruption. People don't do corruption because of mental health issues. Stress में आके corruption करेंगे. Okay. थोड़ा सा far fetched है. स्ट्रेस में आके लोग खाना तो बहुत खाते हैं, ओवर ईटिंग कर लेते हैं. अच्छा, आप खाने को अब लिटिल सेंस में ले रहे हो, हैं? ज्यादा खा लिया ऑफिसर तो और खूब ब्राइब मांगेंगे 50,000, 5 लाख, 5 करोड़, हैं? That is how they will remove their stress. It is emotional intelligence that you can write, sensitive training that you are writing, that will help them. Done? Okay, next question. So how does this trend affect the functioning of the civil services? आप बताइए, क्या नाम है? श्रेया सिंघल केस. Yes. This question. On the first part, how does this affect the functioning of the civil services?
Sir, I've written it impacts on the reputation of honest officers. Impact on the decision making of officers.
कैसे डिसीजन मेकिंग पे क्या इम्पैक्ट दो? कुछ भी लिख दोगे फिर?
I've written officers will be averse of expressing their views due to departmental action for their incorrect decisions.
ठीक है, बढ़िया गुड. आगे.
Losing confidence in the organization.
Using?
Confidence.
Losing confidence. Use word morale. Morale is. Oh, that's a separate point. Okay, they are similar lines only. You should diversify the point. Morale. You don't talk about morale. You know the difference between morale and motivation? Yes, collective. Morale is collective, motivation individual. Yes.
Sir, I've written it promotes slippery slope.
Promote?
Slippery slope.
Slippery slope.
But I was not confirmed for this point that it is correct or not. But I've
फिर भी लिख दिया ऐसे ही. जब कंफर्म नहीं है तो नहीं लिखते हैं. ऐसे सीखो. If you कंफर्म नहीं है ना तो लिखना नहीं है ऐसे कि एग्जामिनर ये यूनिवर्सिटी के एग्जाम नहीं चल रहे कि उसको 5 में से 3 उठाने हैं, बस अपने आप उठा लेगा. ठीक है. सो इफ यू आर नॉट कंफर्म अबाउट इट, डोंट राइट इट. ओके. हाँ ठीक है, अच्छा सोच रहे हो आप, शाबाश. मेजर्स नहीं पूछ रहा. ठीक है, मेजर्स बताइए. और कौन बताएगा मेजर्स? ऑनलाइन वालों अभी बता दिया करो कभी कभी. मेजर्स. Okay, so before we go there, risk, I think this part we should discuss. So risk aversion is important aspect. Risk aversion will be there, morale, credibility of the officers, virtue approach. He will, because he is an honest person, so he will feel very bad. Trust of the people. How many of you wrote that point from the perspective of trust? Trust of the people is important. Policy paralysis might be there. and also, it may have a chilling impact, okay, that you can write. It may lead to unnecessary litigation. The judiciary will be overburdened because it is dealing with the frivolous cases only all the time. Spillover on the judiciary, very, very important. And also it may lead to the extortions. People may be extorting the honest civil servant. It may lead to extortions. You may have, with respect to work culture, you may have a decreased accountability because the culture is a blame game rather than, the actual accountability, the work culture. So mostly in this question, apart from the policy making, everything, decision making, think from the perspective of work culture, think from the perspective of citizens, think from the perspective of judiciary, okay, and the perspective of honest bureaucrat themselves, how they will feel in terms of their character, mental health. Here perhaps you can write mental health, Kirti. Because see, I was going through one of this interview of Khemka Saab, in Indian Express, and he was writing that no one invites him now. So, I mean, he's alone in his badge, no one invites him, and they are very isolated. And imagine being in that position that no one wants to have interaction with you. So that will add a lot of mental pressure on you, lot of mental pressure. So that is what definitely you can write, okay, that the mental health, so it might be there, okay. So what measures can be taken to ensure the honest civil servants are not implicated for the bona fide mistakes on their part? जी बताइए. Brilliant. Examining intent is very much important. Then contributing negligence, very, very good. That to what extent, I mean, it is not the highway, my way or highway, to what extent officer is responsible. We need to see that. Ji.
Regarding the
legal immunity.
लीगल इम्यूनिटी तो हटाने की बात चल रही है, वो तो प्रमोट करता है करप्शन. Civil servants have protection under Article 309 and 311, I think. So it has actually led to the lot of corruption.
Ensuring maximum transparency in administration.
Any specific? Past record is very much important, that you will be looking at the past. How many of you included that point? Past record, Ketan sir? Dekha aapne? Good. Past record of the bureaucrat is very important. Then
Whether the decision has been taken in consent or with any other external influence, fear or something.
that, how would you know?
Can we write regarding the failures like Google?
Rewarding the failure is very, very important. Okay, but we'll come to that later. So what else to be done? Brilliant. Committee-based decision making. Brilliant. That as far as possible, reduce the discretion. Have committee-based decision making so that any single person, is not implicated because of that. Very good. Okay, what you will do, how you will help that person. Think from that perspective. Include training here. That how he can do the risk assessment properly, how he can, do the interpretation of the act in a better way, and he should have this necessary skill in terms of taking decision that how he should protect himself legally. Okay, so training, guidance is very much important part of it. Okay, so that is how you can divide your answer when you are writing the answer. That the committee-based decision making can be there. We'll discuss this later. Parameters, what you will consider, that we should not examine that from the perspective of hindsight, because hindsight is totally different thing. Okay, we must factor into account the prevailing circumstances. It is very much that in what circumstances you made that decision. That is very important. Hindsight is not there. In the 2G case, it is said that a lot of that notional loss that is there, the loss is mostly notional. It is not real loss actually. And when the actual auction happened, we did not get that much amount of spectrum revenue. So that actually highlighted that point only, that the revenue loss that was there, it was notional only. So it is very, very important to understand the prevailing circumstances when the officers are making decision, and that is why the contributory factor should be looked into. What are the contributory factor? What is the contributory negligence that is there? Okay, and If the loss is due to external factors, it may be procedural lapses, operational aspect, then it should not attract major penalty. That is equally important. It should not attract major penalty. Another problem that is there in all such cases is that at times responsibility is not fixed properly. We need to understand that the officer is accountable for which part of the action. Okay, for example, in the context of environmental regulation, it may be one officer who is giving the certificate and another officer who is ensuring compliance. So if someone is not complying, you cannot hold the person accountable who is issuing the certificate, because it might be the case that when he is issuing the certificate, everything is fine. But after issuance of certificate, maybe the compliance officer is not taking adequate action. So you need to fix the accountability where it is actually due. That is equally important, and past track record, of course, should be taken into account. And this is what supportive and learning environment, because mistakes are stopping stone. Here you can give the case studies of Google that someone was discussing here, that you must create an environment where officers can do lot many things. So supportive and learning environment should be there if we want to promote integrity, and decision making. Then provide training and guidance. That is equally important, because you want to help bureaucrat. At times, bureaucrat is not able to understand so many things, so many complexities, legal complexities are there. So comprehensive training program should be there that deals with ethics, decision making, risk management, that equip them with the necessary skills so that they can take informed decisions, to mitigate the risk effectively. That is very, very important. That is very, very important. And also, if it is possible, have an internal review system, internal review and feedback system, so that corrective measures can be taken early and without resorting to the punitive action. Hedonous calculation, Jeremy Bentham, I don't think it is that relevant here. Okay. So here what we are addressing, we are helping the bureaucrat in terms of decision making, that in future how he will conduct himself. When we are making that decision, we are ensuring that we are looking into so many aspects, not just the guilt aspect of it. And also we are creating an environment in which we are promoting all these mistakes in a way that thoughtful mistakes are accepted. Then only will promote innovation. Otherwise it will be very, very difficult to promote innovation. You can definitely give the example of Google work case study here. Definitely give that. How many of you actually gave that? Very good. Great example that you can always give. That is how you promote innovation and everything. Understood? And this is what you want to note perhaps. And the consequence is there. Loss of competent officer is another. People will simply resign. See, perhaps you can tackle that in capacity building and training exercise, that one must not lose the sight of the spirit of the act. Spirit of the act is also equally important. At last, you can write that not every bona fide mistake, bona fide mistake means that only, that it is genuine, but not every mistake is bona fide. That is what you can write. That not every mistake is bona fide, that is what you can write. Now see, the question is asking what measures can be taken to ensure honest civil servants are not implicated for the bona fide mistakes on their part. The question is that how to ensure that they are not implicated for the bona fide mistake. It is not asking you to strengthen accountability mechanism and etc. That's the previous question that is there. Okay, the question is not that. So how to ensure responsibility and accountability? Question is not that. Question is how to ensure that while protecting the honest officer. Question is that. So that is how you are helping. Understood? So these are the theoretical case studies that we discussed. I think in 19, many of these case studies came, and that was quite a, lot of changes were there, themes wise, lot of changes were there. So now perhaps you will be more comfortable. Many theoretical questions we have done. For policy making we have done. These two questions were there. So now you should be comfortable in terms of principle of national justice, right to be heard. It will always be there, Navneet. It will always be there. Yes. Even when the inquiries are there, of course, officer will always be heard. It is there. But definitely you can write that. You can write that. I mean, no harm in in writing that. Intentions, consequences, yes, you can definitely check that. Yes, Udit. Doctrine double effect, you should not mention it here, but you can use the keywords like intentions and everything. Intention is very much important. Intentions, contiguity, negligence, that is very much important. Okay. This is the first page only. Okay, so this is the categorization of the potential losses, because you cannot just, when you are evaluating, when you are going through different cases, let's say 100 cases are there, 100 cases of mistakes are there, or bona fide mistakes are there. Then if I am investigating 100 cases, for example, then I cannot put all my, sincere focus in all the 100 cases equally, and when I do that, I might have lapse of judgment. I will perhaps punish you. I will not go into that detail and everything. So that is why what is needed is the categorization of the potential loss and then grading of the accountability framework, so that we can limit the burden that is there on the officers who is actually evaluating that. Okay, that he should deal with limited number of cases. That is equally important, okay, to minimize that. So, because if you have low value decisions, it will take the toll on the officers and his judgment lapse will be there. So that is also perhaps what you can recommend. Okay, similar thing that is there from the NGO perspective, that threshold, we should have a threshold beyond which, that is from the perspective of government, assessee officer, so that he does not have lapse in judgment and he analyze all the things very much thoroughly, because these cases are important. The decision, whatever decision you will be giving, are very important. I'm so glad that, this point was also discussed by you. This point also you thought, this point also you thought, that the continuity part, and this part was also done by, I think, Kriti, and this part was done by Kriti, and this part was also done. So now मुझे अच्छा लग रहा है actually that now you are thinking on the right lines, that all of you combined are actually giving the right answer, and that is why I'm not showing the slide first. I just want to know your response first before I discuss that. So now, I'm quite happy that you are getting there where you are supposed to be. Just maintain that. Another 15-20 days, you revise it, you go through all the PYQs that are there, for last 7-8 years at least, and then you will be very good, I'm telling you. Very, very good. Okay. Categorization point is from the perspective of the assessee officer, the officer who is doing the judgment. Suppose you are given 100 such cases in terms of bona fide mistake. So will it be possible for you to go through all these series of steps when you are evaluating all the 100 cases? So it is in a way to reduce the burden on the assessee officer, that he should only go through the high value cases that are there. Previous slide, please. क्या भाई, क्या आगे पीछे करवाते रहते हो? इतनी देर थी वो स्लाइड. Understood? Understood, Shubhangi? Navneet, done? Attitude change case study and some IR case study we will do. International relation case study we will do, and okay. Done? Okay, I think that will be all for today. Anything, any doubt that is there? Online students? Resigning from job and company, not following environmental compliance is an act of coward or last resort. That depends upon the consequences, because resignation is a very big decision. Because how big I think there the whistleblowing you will be doing the whistleblowing, not resigning. Diagrams in ethics, so there you must understand that whenever you are making diagram, it should, support your question in a way that it should communicate something that otherwise will be very difficult to communicate through words. A part. B, diagrams should not replace your analysis, especially in analytical questions, because then, you will not get marks. Quotation based questions, suppose it is there analytical questions, then diagrams will not work in those questions, because you must exactly argue for your points. Okay, so the analysis must be there. So analytical question, diagrams are a little less effective, but the question is descriptive in nature, factual in nature. Let's say, what are the causes of corruption? Suppose the simple question is there. You can make the diagram, just dump the keywords, write too many examples, and just move to the next question. So the diagrams only when they help you in terms of conveying your point more effectively. Last slide. भाई आप सोते रहते हो क्या ऑनलाइन वालों, क्या चक्कर है आपका? मन में तो यार ही थी कि अब रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर से देख लेना, बट ठीक है. अब वो अपलोड हो गया, रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर नहीं हुआ अभी. क्या सीन है उसका, क्या चल रहा है? लॉट ऑफ यू आर मैसेजिंग दैट ओनली. अपलोडेड यस्टरडे लेक्चर अपलोडेड. 28th वाला हो गया. कंफर्म होना है, बाकी गाली देंगे आपको नहीं हुआ होगा तो. कंफर्म है? ओके, नाइस. ओके देन, एनीथिंग एल्स? ये हो गया भैया, यही तो बचा क्या करप्शन में? आप बताओ और क्या होगा. नहीं, आप बताओ, बात करते हैं. आओ बताओ तो सही, क्या कवर है क्या नहीं, बताओ जरा, बताओ तो वो अननोन तो मुझे भी नहीं पता है फिर. ठीक, वो तो फिर यूपीएससी पूछेगी आपसे, सीधे वहीं डील करना हो उनसे. माय ऑब्जेक्टिव हियर इज टू बिल्ड योर कॉम्पिटेंस. ठीक है. करप्शन इज कवर्ड, ओके, because causes you already know. In integrity and probity we have discussed them. Work culture we have discussed them. Those are the causes. Suggestions also we have discussed, because from attitude and value perspective, you know, role of family, education institutions, media, that is what you need to write. From every legal perspective, this is what you need to write. So that is how corruption is totally covered now. Media we have already covered in lot of detail. From the media ethical perspective, questions are also there in section A. अब रिवाइज नहीं कर रहे हो सर. Anything else? Test 6 discussion of brainstorming question. Yes, I will do that. Tomorrow I will do. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow I will do that. I will complete whatever is remaining, don't worry. Okay? Okay, bye-bye.